G'day viewers, it's Peter here. How are they hanging? I'm across the road from my shed and I just thought I'd show you something a bit different today. Now if you look through here, this is a patch of blackberries. Well, you might call them briars or brambles, I'm not sure. But this was a gift to us from the colonial British days when the first fleet came over. They brought blackberries and foxes and rabbits, and it's caused us a lot of environmental problems. Now these were sprayed with poison 6 months ago. They were a lot more impressive when they were green, but you can see this is the dead canes, and this is the type of thing that would have been the ideal situation for why those mobilco slashes were actually manufactured, because this is the sort of thing that they were built to do. Now if I look up there, this patch of blackberries is, that's about 200 feet. What's that, 60 metres? Oh, there's a little wallaby up there. Can you see the wallaby going off in the future? I don't know. Where'd it go? Oh, I missed it. Alright, and how do I get this back to size? Don't know how to do that. Alright, so sorry you missed, I don't know if anyone saw that wallaby up there. Alright, now I'm going to head up the hill. Now, I made that quick video yesterday. It's quite a big hill to come up to my shed. I made that video yesterday with the redback dropped out because like I killed that redback. I normally don't kill the native fauna because you don't mind sharing your space with native animals, but every major hospital in Australia has antivenin for redbacks. Now if I get bitten by a redback and I don't get to hospital in time, I will die. What I don't know is my local hospital a major hospital or not. I mean, I don't know. So getting back to the mowers here, what the farmers would do is you get some chain. Now not this crappy chain. See how there's it's not welded shut. So don't use this as just jack chain for electricians use it to mount light fittings and appliances, but it's not welded shut. There is it's all open at the joins, so that's no good. But if you were to get some welded closed chain and then do 2 circles around each spoke and wind that around the entire wheel and then put a bolt through, you get tremendous traction. Now these mowers are 2-wheel drive. It's a very simple and primitive differential. I'll just show you. See, there's a ratchet there. Now that sprocket is firmly affixed to that left-hand wheel, and this right-hand wheel, there's a shaft that goes through this axle tube and is connected to that ratchet there. And you can see there's a spring and a pawl. So what that means is the left wheel is connected to the sprocket, the right wheel is connected to the ratchet, and that gives you the ability to turn corners. So it's a very simple and cost effective. I presume it was made during the war when supplies were difficult to get. So this is the answer they came up with, and it's worked for 80 years. So I think it was a pretty reasonable solution. Now when I was working on this mower yesterday, I put new fuel lines on. Now you can see the new fuel lines I put on, and when I was working on this tank I had to put my fingers up here. There's 4 nuts that mount the tank, and I was putting my fingers up there and poking around, and that's where the redback spider was living. And well, actually I think, where is she? So there, You can't quite see that, can you? So she's feeling a bit flat there, and she had a interaction with my size 10 Blundstone boot, and she came off second best. Now, the reason I killed her, like, I was sitting in my lounge room watching television last week, and across the carpet in my house walks a scorpion. Now, I know that I should have picked it up and put it outside, but I chose to kill it. Now, I don't mind sharing my house with smaller animals like scorpions or lizards and possums and antechinus. We have a lot of trouble with antechinus. They're very small marsupials, about the size of a rat, and you just got to live with the animals. They were here first, but if I woke up with a snake in my bed or a scorpion, I'd find it hard to sleep. So I choose to kill those sorts of things. So if that redback, if she had 100 eggs in her and I let her go in my shed, I'm going to have 100 redbacks inside the shed, which for me, if I'm reaching to grab a tool or perhaps a box of nuts or a jar of something, and I get bitten by a redback, if I don't get to the hospital in time, I'm dead. So that's my decision. So there are some animals that I do choose to kill. I'm not real happy about it, but it is what it is. Now, I did have two fuck-ups on this job, so I'll tell you about how I fucked up. The first time I used this brake, you remember that this 5/16 shaft, I only put a dob of weld on the ends because in the future, if I needed to change something, I could grind it off with an angle grinder. Well, the first time I applied the brakes with any sort of force, it just sheared off the weld. Now, I was surprised by that because I used 5/16 shaft and I drilled 5/16 holes in these two nuts, but in these arms I drilled 8mm holes. Now, a lot of people think 5/16 and 8mm are interchangeable, and that's sort of true. There's actually 8mm is about 3 thou smaller. So on spanners and sockets, I think it's fair to say that's interchangeable because there's probably a 3 thou tolerance in the manufacturing process. But what that meant was that by using an 8mm hole, that was a very hard press fit onto the shaft, and I thought the dob of weld would be quite sufficient to hold it. But clearly I was wrong, and the first time I used it, it sheared off the dob of weld. So I've put 4 dobs of weld there, but it's still removable in the future if need be. And the other thing that I got wrong was these holes. The top hole is 80mm, that one is 50mm. I had to drill another one, that's an 1 1/4. That's 1 1/4 and that's 3 1/2. So now that was to get more leverage because the brake force was enough to slow me down going down the hill, but not stop me. So now I've got about 140% mechanical advantage there, and then this one gives me about 250%, so that's more than 3 1/2 times the mechanical effort. And so now when I apply the brakes here, it is sufficient to stop the mower. I can actually stop the mower running down that hill. Now, talking about putting the chains on the mower, if you wrap these chains around both wheels, and if you can, this side applies the brake, and this this side, if you look here, you can see how it actuates. There's a very simple clutch. Again, very simple machine, easily maintained by farmers. So if I was to put a cable tie around this and hold that handle up, this mower will go in two-wheel drive. Now, if the front guards are removed, as everybody does, so the damn thing can cut, you can imagine if I came up to a patch of blackberries that was maybe 10 foot high or 3 metres and maybe 60 foot diameter, 20 metres, I could just come up, point this machine at the centre of it, pull this handle up and slip my cable tie over it and just walk and just let the machine go, and then walk around the patch of blackberries and wait for the machine to come out the other side. And this machine, if it's got chains on the wheels, it will come out the other side unless there's a tree stump or something like that in it. And so you just wait for it to come out the other side and then turn it around, send it through again. Once you've sent it through half a dozen times, you're pretty right to do it, what I'll say, in the traditional way, or as the way you'd think to use these mowers. Alright, so I think that's all I wanted to tell you about that. The only other thing I want to say is I had a comment from Henry, and Henry asked me about greasing this main spindle. Now, when I changed these bearings, this is a 6205 RS bearing. So paying attention, fellas, can you tell me what's the shaft diameter on a 6205 bearing? Because if you watched my first video on the Datsun motor, you should be able to tell me that. Well, the answer is this bearing is 25mm on the shaft and 52mm on the OD, which is horribly close to the old 1 inch bore with a 2-inch OD. And I replaced both bearings on this mower when I changed it to swing back blades. You can see now, I believe that with swing back blades, the bottom bearing should last longer. The bottom bearing always wears out first, because when you hit a rock, the shock is transmitted to the bearing. So you rarely have to change the top bearing, but you often have to change the bottom bearing. And because the bearings I purchased were these 6205 rubber sealed bearings, which means they're packed with grease for life. So you never have to lubricate those bearings. But I'm presuming that by having swing back blades, the bearings will last longer. It'll be interesting to see if I'm right or not. Alright fellas, that's about the end of it there. So I'll say uru, and thanks for watching.